Hello and welcome to Northern Illinois Biz Chats. I'm your host, Susie, with the Gift Wrap Place, also known as wrapwithbo.com.
And I'm your co-host, George Chase.
These chats are sponsored by wrapwithbo.com
and the George Chase Insurance Agency.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this episode of Biz Chats,
also known as NIBC.
Here we are again, and we are having a fabulous day, and we have another fabulous guest, and I am going to let you introduce yourself because you do it best.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Emily Kunash. I'm owner of Next Level Counseling and Wellness. We have 3 offices, one in Woodstock, one in Crystal Lake, and one in Chicago.
And which one do you work at?
I work at the Woodstock office.
Okay, but you can also do remote too.
I sure can.
If they just love you and they're like, I need that lady. Okay. All right, so what areas of specialty are you in?
My specialties are about 15 or 16 years old plus, and I work with trauma, substance use, eating disorders, and then general anxiety.
So as folks view this, what are the things they can do right now to limit these areas they're struggling with?
Well, the biggest thing that I recommend for people to start practicing is meditation and mindfulness. We have an abundance of resources for meditation.
So it takes you right into that different space.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so meditation is really the practice of centering your mind in the present. Sometimes what happens is we have these thoughts and they are seemingly intrusive, and they can be self-destructive or might lead us in a direction that isn't necessarily the most constructive. So when that happens, we start to ruminate or cycle those thoughts over and over again, which can create problematic thinking. And so when we use mindfulness and meditation, what it does is allows us to have a little bit better control of those thoughts. I imagine it's kind of like a muscle. So if you walked into the gym and you just wanted to start lifting weights, you wouldn't start with 50-pound dumbbells in your hands, right? You'd start small, you'd start light. And so we start meditation in kind of a small, light space. And really the practice is find something to think about. Keep your mind on something. Mm-hmm. Use one of your 5 senses. Mm-hmm. And if you find yourself getting distracted, your thoughts drift somewhere else, then, you think of just say, oh, I had a thought that was not on the thing that I'm supposed to be focused on, and you bring it back. And that's like squeezing the bicep on
So that's something they can do right now.
Yes.
Just when they're in that moment of struggling with the anxiety, the PTSD, whatever it is, to kind of bring. And then of course you have other exercises.
Of course.
I'm sure that you take them through, kind of customize a program for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I started practicing, of course, before grad school because you have to do thousands of hours of internships. So I estimate about 18 years.
Okay.
Yeah, given all of the little niche experiences before that.
And how did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Oh, well, I kind of fell into my lap. So when I was in high school, I took a psychology class. I loved the instructor. He was our drama teacher. And so I was like, well, this class is so much fun and it's easy. So I thought, this is kind of cool. Maybe I could do this. And then I decided to kind of take a different direction for my undergrad, and it didn't pan out the way that I wanted to. It didn't seem like a right fit. And I was afraid the psychology program was just, I just wasn't into it. I just liked the teacher when I was in high school. Well, that's not true. I took a couple more psychology classes in college and realized, no, this is definitely my jam. I just think that the human mind is so incredible and understanding people, and I love talking to people. So to sit and talk with people all day long is wonderful. And I can be a helper. And I get paid for it. Yeah, and I help people. And
I'm not paying you.
Great.
This is how, that's it. You get some cannolis, some coffee, and some margarita. A lot of people that struggle with certain things, I think when they get into the arts, it's super helpful.
Yes. Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about these, basic needs. We have this hierarchy, which looks like a little triangle. The very bottom is things like, shelter, food, water, clothing, very, very primal needs that we have. The second level is belonging. And what better place to find a community than with a whole bunch of theater nerds that share your passion for, playing. Really, you get to just play and be somebody else and put on fun costumes and set yourself into a different time period.
Or even if you
We are excited about our sponsorships.
Yeah, thanks to Cicerone's Cafe and Deli here in Woodstock. They provided us with a great coffee setup for our business.
Besides what we've talked about, there's parents that are struggling with their child, and that there's that parent-child thing. What kind of advice can you give for a parent whose child is in school, maybe struggling, isolated, all those kind of things? You know what all those issues are. What can a parent do? What are the good first steps so it doesn't get so out of hand that they miss that first step? What would you recommend?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's really important to recognize it's never too late. I think sometimes people get very frustrated and they're like, oh my gosh, they're nearly 18 years old. I've screwed them up, or I haven't,
That's a great point.
It's never too late to build a relationship with your child. Yeah. And even as adults, I think we can grow in our relationships with our parents, and vice versa, our adult children. So the really important thing is building empathy and listening. Physical illness, we are seeing tons of this in schools.
Oh, sure.
That stomach
I'm hearing
aches,
about it all the time.
It
more
is,
than ever.
Well,
yeah.
I was a stomach ache kid. I went to the nurse's office. Well, turns out I had anxiety, but I would say I don't feel good. And I couldn't necessarily explain what was happening. Well, it was anxiety in my stomach. And oftentimes the school nurses are the first people that catch anxiety for little kiddos. But when you have a parent that would say, oh, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you, no measurable, issue, well, then we just don't believe that kid. And then we push him on into that perhaps very anxiety-provoking situation. Sure. Which school can be.
Back into the classroom.
So how did it work for you? What happened? Did you come
therapy.
out of it? But did you come out of it?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There
have been different phases of my anxiety.
Yeah.
So, in school, a lot of times it was very, very much separation. Until I met my husband, I had a lot of separation anxiety. So being away from my family, being in unusual situations. Oh gosh, this is actually one of the best stories that just came up to me. I was a gymnast when I was a kiddo, and I went to a gymnastics camp when I was maybe 9, very far away. It was like a several-hour drive. And I went with a friend from gymnastics, and it was overnight. And I just could not sleep. I was miserable. I loved everything during the day. It was great. But as soon as everything got quiet at night, I'd get really nervous.
Sure,
I'd miss home.
Yeah.
You're in bunks. Very strange
It's a
situation.
great story. Yeah.
Wait, it gets
a lot
better.
But a lot of kids go through this. So
Yeah.
that's great.
So I was really tons of homesickness. And I would call my parents all the time. I'd cry at night. And they said, if you stop crying, you can have breakfast with Carrie Strug, international Olympian. Mm-hmm. This was the year before she won on the broken ankle.
Yeah.
I had breakfast with Carrie Strug.
So there was a motivation.
Absolutely.
Some motivation. There you go. That's a great tip.
Oh my God, I zipped
it.
I just.
There you go. But also, don't you think exercise?
Sure.
Your body, moving your body.
Absolutely.
So when kids sit too long, like when so getting active in something.
Yes.
And maybe not a team, because sometimes kids that have the PTSD and all that might be very difficult, in the competition, the high competition. Mm-hmm. But if they could do some kind of exercise versus just sitting in front of the screen, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have to have a nice balance. We want to make sure kids know that they can rest. We have a lot of extremes in this situation. We have kids that are going constantly.
Right.
They are overscheduled. They are at activity after activity. They have many sports lined up.
So they don't know how to be down.
They don't know how to be down.
Right, there.
And then we have the opposite. Well, I don't want to overschedule my kids, but then they have no stimulation. So we want to have a nice balance of those two things. And it goes for adults too. We have to be able to find that balance. How do I get out? How do I stay in? I oftentimes have adults that have no idea how to just hang out and be at home alone. Yeah.
Like, I absolutely love it.
Like being at home alone?
I love it.
Yeah.
I
love it.
It's great. There's nobody I'm competing with for the TV remote.
Yeah.
When I'm home alone. So there you have it.
I think that's good for a family, though, too. I think for everyone in the family to be able to be in the space alone, I think that is awesome.
Yeah.
When Jeff's out of town. Yeah. After the third day, though, I'm having the girls over.
I have a lot of clients that do similar family work. where they've been able to go to their parents who they've been, they've had this kind of persistent invalidity. So they just kind of went to their parents and said, this is my pain, this is my suffering. And their parents were like, you're fine. And after some time as an adult, they go back and have these conversations and say, you really didn't do this. You really didn't meet this need for me. And sometimes parents will blow them off. And it's like, we did the best we could. That's a really common one. We did the best we could. And oftentimes,
George, I did the best I could.
Get these experiences that really deepen the relationship that between that parent and child. And they can recognize, both the parts of that relationship that suffered and also the parts that were beautiful and how those experiences
bring that
shaped
out.
them
Perfect.
into a positive place. So, I think we have those conversations and we don't necessarily need the validation. In fact, we go into it knowing we may never get the validation from a parent that we wanted. But
it's just unfinished business.
Yes.
It's like unfinished business.
I need to say this. I just need to say this.
Yeah.
And you don't need to believe me or you don't need to tell me it's okay.
Like
I know it's
yeah,
okay.
exactly.
I have
You're
a couple of really awesome, I of course can't say who they are,
Of
but
course.
I've worked with a few people in the substance use field who years and years ago, they came through the treatment program that I was running or working with, either on an individual or a group level. And they are now, years later, in the industry working as helpers.
Oh, yes. I hear this all the time.
It's awesome. I mean, we'll collaborate sometimes.
It's big, yeah.
It's beautiful.
That is a cycle of life. That is a big one with that, for sure.
And they obviously had a great experience with you, and that led them to, like my wife. She had a fantastic, I think, 8th grade teacher that it just kind of clicked for her. Oh, I'm going to go into teaching. And it was amazing.
Tell us about the substance abuse stuff. What do you want to say about that?
It's very complicated. I think everybody's journey looks very different.
It does.
People start using substances for a variety of reasons. They stay in addiction for a variety of reasons, and they get out of it using a variety of treatments. So there isn't a one fits all for treatment and recovery. And I think going into our sessions with a substance abuse client, I make that very clear. I have an eclectic approach to therapy, so that means I have many background kind of theories that I can pull from. And that's especially helpful with my substance use clients because we have, the AA or 12-step programs. Those are very effective for a lot of people, but many people do not really jive with that.
Yeah.
Right.
What is it?
So we have AA, and then we have a whole bunch of offshoots of that, with which are for different substances. So, Cocaine Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous. That whole branch is very rooted in the 12 steps. And that's got a ton of research behind it as being a successful program.
Okay, so say.
So the 12 steps are rooted in the actual history of it is very religious based. So smart recovery, no religion, very analytical based. And then on the other very opposite side of that is the recovery programs like Willow has a recovery program.
Sure. Yeah, I heard of that.
Really religious based.
Yeah, I heard about that.
The Buddhist Temple has their program, which is slipping my mind at this moment, but they have a similar refuge for recovery. That's what it's called.
Is it 12? Are they all going with 12? So what's the variation?
I don't remember what they all have, but I know they're not
But
all
are
12.
they steps?
There are some steps for most of them.
Okay.
Yes. Honestly, admit when you're wrong. Go to people and say, hey, you've harmed me, and let's move through this. I recognize that I'm not in control of everything. That's really important to recognize.
So are you seeing that when someone comes through with you, are they lifers or do they kind of move on?
That's a great question. Yeah. It really depends. I have some people that come in for 6-7 sessions. They come in with a goal. We meet that goal.
Gotcha.
Great. Done. Check. That's very solution focused. I have people that will come in and out. They'll come for a problem, and then a few years later they say, hey, can you fit me in? Can we meet again? Something's either something new or something's kind of triggered, something else that's come up deeper, or, I want to process through this major loss or major change in my life. Great. They come back. And then I have people that I see for years. They just they still have stuff they want to work through. A lot of times they're called verbal processors.
They need the support
They
system.
need the space. They need the freedom. They they have all these things in their head, and they just need to talk through it. And for whatever reason, that's just the safest place to do it is with me.
Okay.
I mostly,
so you go through every
over
age
16.
group.
Yeah.
Oh, over 16.
Yeah,
Okay.
15, 16. They got to be able to like drive themselves or make their own
Gotcha.
appointments. A lot of independence with the clients that I work with.
And you and I
talked.
talked about this, that you can do online.
Yes.
So how does that
gosh.
work?
Ah.
So kind of give them a heads up on how that works.
This was the coolest thing. Pre-pandemic, to be able to work with people from a virtual office, you had to have a completely different credential, tons of training, very, just bureaucratic kind of stuff. Lots of barriers to be able to have access to this kind of care. And so in 2019, when I opened my practice, I found a system that had integrated behavioral health, telehealth. So I could already do that. I had a handful of people through a direct provider for EAP. So they hang on the employee assistance programming for some major companies. So I knew that was going to be an option for those clients. So I just said, okay, I can offer telehealth. Sure. When am I going to use this for maybe a couple of people? Well,
Who knew?
2020 happened and everything was virtual. So I was seamlessly able to transfer everybody to virtual. Magically, now the insurance companies just needed a little code on your billing sheet to bill as telehealth. It became so easy. Miraculous. And the access to care has just blossomed. It's beautiful to see how really impactful this is. And for most people, honestly, the research says that in-person or virtual is just as effective. Now, people have preferences, but
Do you see, you mentioned insurance, do you see employers offering that kind of thing to their employees and do some group health plans, like, cover that, not cover that, maybe to a certain extent?
Yeah, truthfully, the major industry, people like Google and Meta, Lululemon is even on this contract. Like we see huge Walmart, Starbucks, McDonald's, these huge companies offer a carve-out, a completely separate employee assistance program for more than just your 3 sessions, which is what it used to be. We're talking 20, 30 sessions that people can get in a year, and then you can do it again every year. And it's really beneficial for these people. They reduce work burnout. They really become standard for performance, and not in a high pressure situation. In fact, the whole thing is about reducing the pressure and saying, okay, how do we find the ability to work and then leave work? And that sometimes looks like boundary setting. So we have a ton of these kind of EAP policies. Many school districts offer, a handful of sessions for this. So it's great that people have access to that. Yeah.
It is smart.
In the Affordable Care Act, that was really became very standard. So if you can see a doctor in your policy, you can see a therapist in your policy. Oftentimes we're just considered an office visit, which is great. Again, access.
That's great. They need to do that with teeth.
That's a great
Oh God, right?
Teeth.
I know. And teeth and eyes.
It's crazy that those are they're not part of your body. That needs to change.
It's
so
wild.
maybe it's totally wild.
Yeah.
So if you were to say something about substance abuse, what's going on in the area, are you seeing, because people maybe are getting the help now, that it's not as predominant as it used to be, or is it pretty still steady, heavy duty?
I wish I could say that.
We're still,
we're
still in it.
McHenry County is beautiful.
It
really,
is, right.
Really powerful community of intervention, prevention, and they are doing their best to stay ahead of this. It's impossible to be perfect, but we are seeing a really strong move toward sober, curious people that just choose not to drink.
I'm just looking at
they have those.
What I was seeing in McHenry, and I think I spoke to you about this, is I was seeing a lot of substance abuse on the street 5-10 years ago. I am not seeing that as much anymore. So whatever the program is, that's not, because I'm right in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
So I was seeing a lot of this on the streets all around 5-10 years, and I'm not seeing as much.
It's really,
so unless they've come up with a method to get people off the street.
It's very intentional. It is a community effort, truly.
Sure.
There are so many, we have Rosecrans, which provides the intensive outpatient, and some
Say who that is.
Rosecrans they are a Rockford-based substance use and mental health nonprofit, and so they have an office in Crystal Lake and McHenry. They do intensive outpatient in our county. In Rockford, they have inpatient, so they have detox and inpatient. We also have Northern Illinois Recovery. So Northern Illinois Recovery Center.
Great.
Another really amazing. They have PHP. They have a detox center. That's on the complete other side of McHenry County, but they have wonderful programming.
So are they
halfway
collaborating
houses.
too? Like, is there a system where it's like, okay, we can't take this for this, but we can?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of collaboration
That's
with
the big
substance
one.
use. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our court system, this is incredible.
Okay.
Our court system really tries to decriminalize the substance use.
And moving into health
Yeah,
and wellness.
yeah. So when you have somebody who has perhaps gotten a felony, some sort of felony related, either a DUI or a substance use charge, they want to get to the root of it. They want to ask the person, why? What's the issue? Why are you using, or why did you commit this crime? Mm-hmm. And it's perfect. That's the perfect question. Mm-hmm. Because then when they answer that question, we can go, okay, well then you have these options to try to treat that issue, right? So we have substance use providers. We also have, child care that we can get them hooked up with those kinds of resources. We have different kinds of, the workforce development, so getting people jobs.
So you're seeing more people employed in those areas as well, because I used to tell you, in McHenry, I'm right downtown, and it was bad on the streets. And it seems that something has shifted, and the folks are getting the help.
Yes.
Well, and it sounds like a real shift to rehabilitation rather than just locking people up.
Absolutely.
Which I think is great.
It's wonderful. Yeah. And we have tons of those success stories too around the community.
Those
if you
are
ever,
big.
oh my gosh, if you ever have a chance to get to drug court graduation, holy cow.
Okay.
It's so powerful.
Cool.
You just hear these stories of people who have been at their very, very bottom, which you don't ever have to get to choose recovery, but these people have had, they're on their last chance, really, legally or with their families, and they have turned their lives around. They have, a new career or a new job. They get their license back. They get their kids back.
So what is this program that they're graduating from this?
Yes.
And so is there someone that they're speaking to, like they said, this is who helps me through?
It is a whole program.
Okay.
So the specialty courts are a whole program in McHenry County. They have a judge that precedes the whole thing.
Gotcha.
They have special defendants, defending attorneys that work with the state. So they kind of say, like, the defense attorney will be like, hey, if they do these things, they'll drop the charges to this, or it kind of it converts their sentence or something like that. And so it kind of clears their slate, and they get all of these resources that are built in. So that network is incredible.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, because
That's
in the day, you
Mm-hmm.
remember the police, they're very different now. So I see the police pull people over, and there's like whole big conversations going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where I was like, get out of the car, I ain't talking to you.
Right,
It'd be a whole big mess. And now because, I see it all. And so they're pulling them over, and I'm seeing like they stand back and they're having these big, long conversations. And if they have to have other officers come up, they stand there, they're having these big, long conversations. And it seems like you're trying to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have social workers too on the department now. So the police department employs police social workers.
Yeah, we're talking about that.
So when they get called to a scene, you can actually call. If you know it's a mental health emergency, you actually let 911 know this is a mental health emergency. So they don't come in guns a-blazing, scaring somebody.
Right,
They come in with a different kind of approach that they've been trained in with these social workers to figure out, how do we de-escalate the mental health situation?
Right.
Where do we get this person to, prevent this from escalating, or to give them really the help they need?
We prepped Emily. We told her to get ready to play 2 truths and a lie. And you're going to try and stump Susie and I
'Kay.
with your 2 truths
'Kay.
and 1 lie.
All right.
Yeah.
I once went swimming with sharks. My original major in college was pre-med, biomedical sciences. And I, for a year, did a stint of beauty pageants in college.
I'm going to say 3 is a lie because I told her 2 was going to be so that she could have fooled me. I'll say.
I'll go with, what was number 1?
I swam with sharks.
I'll say that's the lie.
Oh my gosh. Wow, I'm surprised. That is the lie.
Okay.
Yes. I did swim with dolphins.
So we loved having Emily. She's the best ever. And so, as always, we are done with Northern Illinois Biz Chats. And that is a wrap.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Northern Illinois Biz Chats.
And don't forget to follow us on socials to see more local businesses.
And that's it for us until next time.
That's a wrap.